You probably know already that I have a lot of opinions, and my colleagues also have a lot of opinions. We give you our perspectives weekly, and I have asked my colleagues to come into the studio to talk about some more things where we can offer our perspectives. Specifically, I want to talk about films. I want to talk about movies. It's Academy Award season, so we've decided to give you our perspective on some of the movies that we've been seeing this year. So I'm glad you're here for this very special series of podcasts all around Reel, R-E-E-L, right? Mm-hmm. And theology. Hi, Hannah.
Hi,
you ready
Trudy.
for this?
I am ready.
I am so glad you decided you've agreed to do this.
Yes, and I actually got excited about watching.
Yes, you did. You came up with our very first film to talk about.
K-Pop Demon Hunters.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it until we had to do this because when everyone else is watching the same movie, I check out.
Okay, you don't follow the lines to the theater, do you?
No,
okay.
I wait until it calms down a little bit.
Well, I have to confess, I was a little surprised you suggested this movie because, I was looking at the real artsy, the deep, movies, and you said, wait a second, K-Pop Demon Hunters, it's got some theology there. So I'm really excited to have you lead us through what you see in this movie.
Yes, I got inspired to watch this because I was having a conversation with my theological colleagues who were recommending this movie. This is a religious movie, they said.
Okay.
So this film looks fun and flashy and chaotic on the surface.
Yeah.
But when you look at the contents of it, underneath it, it's a story about shame, identity, belonging, redemption, and healing.
Yeah.
And it asks a deep spiritual question. Mm-hmm. What do we do with the parts of us that we don't like?
Yeah.
And we've been taught to hide.
Yeah, that's certainly what the main characters, the Huntrix, the three young ladies who are singing. They're singing so that they can create a Honmoon. Honmoon. That is a protective aura, maybe shield over all of the earth, so that the demons don't get them. Right?
That's true.
And they sing to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
And their voice comes from 3 different parts, and they cannot sing without one of them, right?
Yeah.
When Rumi's voice starts cracking, they
can't do it without her.
So it brings perfect harmony and a chorus together.
And so these 3 ladies, particularly Rumi, have secrets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Before going there, you just sparked something else that I wasn't thinking about sharing today.
That's what these podcasts do, right? Tell me what you're thinking. Yes.
Honmoon. So if I can use my basic Korean language translation,
it's better than mine.
It sounds like the door of the spirits.
That's what the word sounds like? Okay.
Hon means the spirit, the souls.
Okay.
Moon means door.
Yeah. So they close the door to the demon spirits.
Yes. So what were you asking after that?
Well, Rumi is hiding a secret.
Yes.
She's got the patterns that signify whether or not you're a demon.
Yes.
Right?
So there are 2 separate worlds,
Yeah.
the demons and demon hunters.
Okay.
And they were supposed to be binary, either purely evil or purely good.
Okay.
But one of the trios was born out of a demon father and a hunter mother.
Okay.
So she had some of the patterns on her body, and she grew up hiding them.
Yeah.
So her parents died when she was born.
Okay.
So it was one of her mother's friend who adopted her and raised her.
Okay.
And she keeps on saying, honey, try harder.
Oh.
These will disappear.
The patterns will go away if you just try harder. Does that ever work?
No. So she, throughout her entire life, up to this point of singing with the other two girls, she was wearing long sleeves and hiding those and trying to shake off those patterns by singing.
Yeah. Shake off the patterns by singing the song that would create the Honmoon that would protect everybody, and then she would be redeemed too. So she wasn't going to accept the patterns as they were, but she was going to work awfully hard to try and get rid of them in a way that may or may not be successful.
Yes.
Is that right?
As she's, you got it. As she's joining the singing of the three, which means, which signify to me a community that sings hymns together. So by one part of the movie says music connects us all. So they were connecting together that symbolized relational love.
And that was what was going to save everyone from the demons.
Including Rumi and the demons and those who were shadowed by demons. So
that's theology.
That's theology.
That'll work, you know. Relationships, the relational nature of community that is focused on singing hymns, to be literal in a sense. That will keep a lot of demons at bay.
Yes, and for the whole healing of those who are partially patterned. So it gave me some hope that Rumi, as part of the trio, was covered with those patterns. Even if we appear to be good, we all carry those shadows.
Well, towards the end of the movie, her other two friends begin to explore what they are ashamed of, what they don't like about themselves, and what sometimes they can try and overcompensate for and to ignore, but they were owning it at the end. And they didn't have the patterns. But they, nothing that they were trying to fix could actually be seen. But they felt it, and it was a characteristic they wanted to get rid of. Parts of themselves.
That actually brings a good idea about we cannot be perfectly good or perfectly evil. We all have those mixture of goodness and badness in us, whether they show in visible marks or not. And the other friends didn't have that. But they started owning their shadows, their self-hatred and rejection of themselves. So owning is like repentance. In religious theme, that you start naming your own vices and your shortfalls.
I wrote down a quote. Rumi at some point says, "We can't fix it if we never face it." Right?
Can that be a good sermon title?
Well, there you go. You know what? It makes me think of a book that I have, and a nice little book on sin, right? And the cover of it, I love. It's a picture of a man who is looking into the mirror, and we see the back of his head as he's looking into the mirror, but what he sees is the back of his head too, on for eternity, like in the mirrors. And the name of the book is called I Told Me So. Right? So it's the idea that we have a hard time facing ourselves. We have a hard time really looking in that mirror, and we can tell ourselves something that may or may not be actually true and seen in the mirror.
And how often are we coming to the church, and sorry about bringing church, coming to the church.
It's bound to happen. And we're clergy.
Covering ourselves up like Rumi did, not showing, revealing her own weaknesses and her own self to her closest friends and colleagues, and pretending that everything is all good.
But I had another story. A man used to drive through country roads to go to church, and he would say that people along the route and the farms along the route would prop up their dead chickens. That became the phrase he used about covering up, putting on a good front, acting as though everything's perfect and I have no flaws at all, right? That doesn't happen in the church, does it? Really? I mean, yeah, hopefully not so much anymore, but we all do. We all have that ability to kind of say, I don't want people to see me as I really am. But to bring that into church is really is hard. Because if you can't face it to fix it in church with God at your side, with people around you to be thinking about being better humans too, I don't know where you can do that.
Yes, and that has been my own personal journey from I used those phrases from saving face to saving grace.
Oh, nice.
I used to try so hard to save my face, to cover up like Rumi did.
Yeah.
Until I began to lean heavily on the saving grace. That it's okay to bring my whole self, and that's how I started sharing my vulnerable moments from the pulpit.
Nice. Yeah.
And that also has been an evolutionary process of Christianity, that at one point, just like this movie, like the Gwi-Ma, we try to...
The Gwi-Ma.
Yes.
Say a little bit more about who that is.
Yes. Gwi-Ma was transliterated in the movie. It's a Korean word, Gwi-Ma. It's a flipped word from Magui.
Okay.
Gwi-Ma,
Okay.
Magui. It just flipped the order of the wording.
Yeah.
And by saying so, they were meaning the devil or Satan.
Okay.
Gwi-Ma.
Gwi-Ma. And Gwi-Ma is the one who is sucking the souls out of those who would then be demons. Is that right?
Yes, the dark underworld king.
The king.
That rules those people who live with their shame and those who are drawn to him.
Yeah.
And what else was I thinking?
Sorry, I wanted to make sure our listeners might know who that is.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would have forgotten. So this devil was speaking to everyone and brewing this idea of causing shame, that you're not good enough.
That's right. Yeah.
You abandoned your family,
Yeah.
and constantly bringing the guilt and shame from the past experiences and throughout generations and all those denials.
Yeah, and Rumi kept saying, especially to the one young other main character, the
Jinu.
The
One of the Saja boys.
There you go, one of the Saja boys. Also part demon. I want to say a little bit more about that in a minute. But Rumi was always saying it was a mistake. He would weigh on all the things that made him not good enough or not enough of anything, and she would say it's a mistake. It's a mistake. That invitation, get over it. That's not who you are, right? Yeah, we have a hard time doing that.
Yes, and that mistake actually pressured him for generations. Like it was during the Joseon dynasty when there was a king, and he was a poor man. Who was gifted with music. So he was recruited by the king's palace to sing for the king and play for the king. And he became a little richer and more famous. And that's where he abandoned his poor family and closed the door. And since then, he lived in that shame and guilt forever. And so that's what happens when you're tempted with greed, fame, and all of that. You fail to care for your families. What actually motivated you to become more affluent?
Right. It's the greed that takes you away from community.
Yes.
And all of those other things that put you in a bad relationship to the community in some way, right? I think
cause you isolation and become more of individualistic than your family-oriented
Right.
culture or your community-oriented culture. It's more about me, me, me.
Right.
He was caught in that me, me, me culture.
Yeah. I'm so grateful that you are helping us know Korean history, Korean words and meanings and culture. Thank you so much for just sharing all of this, because it adds so many layers that I'm going to pick up. So thank you. That's awesome.
I was glad to see this movie come out, and a lot of these wordings were just transliterated, causing lots of curiosity or leaving some audience just where they are.
Yeah, exactly.
And
exactly.
it brought in a lot of different snacks, pizza and ramen noodle from different cultures all together.
Yeah.
But before going there,
Okay.
you mentioned, we mentioned Saja boys.
Yeah.
Those beautiful, feminine-looking masculinity in their bodies. They all had six packs.
Yeah, they did.
But they looked pretty on their face, right? And one of those guys, Saja boys, and I could not stop thinking about Saja boys. Saja is a shortened word from 저승 사자.
Okay.
If you translate that into English,
Yeah.
that could mean Grim Reapers.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That works for Gwi-Ma.
Okay.
So
okay.
Gwi-Ma is the devil,
Right.
That's the satanic power
Yeah.
that lives in the underworld that controls the Saja boys. Even if they sing popular songs and get all those fames, at the bottom of their heart, they listen to this Gwi-Ma.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Jinwoo is the one who was trapped in his own shame.
Right. Right.
And he moves back and forth between listening to Rumi and listening to Gwi-Ma.
Yeah. Yeah.
How often do you feel caught
Right.
in between those conscious voices
Oh yeah.
and
Shoot.
those temptations?
All the time. Exactly. Yeah. So it's interesting though. Rumi, born half demon, half human, which is a flip side of the Christ, half God and half human, right?
Yes.
Right. And trying to lean towards the better end of her nature, and she actually. While the whole movie and the premise of the movie begins with the idea that the demons will be defeated by community, by song, by the Honmoon, there's something that's still missing. Because part of what was built into that was the need to hide who you are, or parts of yourself, right? So Rumi actually takes it to a different level, a different understanding of how the demons can be defeated as she talks to a demon, right? And it's Jinwoo who is the one that that wavers in who he's going to listen to, right? And Rumi is standing firm in being good and saying it's a mistake, and Jinwoo is a little bit catching on, but still not quite. And but it's because of their relationship that Rumi was able to see in Jinwoo both the good, despite the patterns and despite how he had lived and despite what he had done, she still saw the good. And it was that enabled her to say, yeah, I'm not going to hide anymore. That's a part of this big structure, right?
Yes.
Part of this big structure of how we're going to defeat evil.
Yes.
That doesn't really make us defeat evil.
Yes. And I'm glad that you mentioned that part. And in their before their conversations, in their conversation, there's a theme of hiding your own flaws.
Yeah.
And I think there is a little connection between that hiding and the public bathhouse.
Okay.
So I grew up going to public bathhouse once a week.
Okay.
So that's where you go naked and there's a gendered houses. And
you go to wash.
you
Or do
I
you go to, is it like the sauna where you go to relax?
relax and
bit both?
wash and
Okay.
refresh, all of that.
Okay.
So every weekend, my mother used to take me there, and you get naked and you go inside. There's nothing you can hide there.
Yeah, well,
So
yeah.
they use the bathhouse as a symbolism
Okay.
for us going into a place where we
Okay.
don't have to hide anything. And I could not stop but thinking about the public bathhouse
Yeah.
as a symbolism of the church. Baptism,
Okay.
going into
Okay.
the public bathhouse. And the first bathhouse was featured when they were fighting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was called 대세 목욕탕, which means the mainstream public bathhouse.
Okay.
The
Okay.
mainstream churches, like people go in and instead of getting undressed
Yeah.
and relax and
Yeah.
be restored, they continue to fight in that space. So there's no distinction between the sacred bathhouse
Okay.
and outside the world. You go in with your full clothes on, still trying to hide
Yeah.
your patterns.
Okay.
That's where Rumi was discovered by Jinu.
That's
That
right.
she had patterns.
That's right.
And then the second bathhouse was featured after all this movie fight was over.
All it's done, and we triumph. The good triumphs.
Yes, and Rumi finally, after many years of refusing to go
Yeah.
to the bathhouse and uncover herself,
Right.
agreed to go
Okay.
and got to relax. And
Yeah.
she said something about,
Yeah.
this is so good, and the other
Yeah.
two girls,
There
we
you
told you
go.
so.
There you go. Yeah. So as you talk about that, that first scene of being in the bathhouse and they're fighting the Huntrix trio are fighting the demons and the Saja boys in this bathhouse, and it made me think, if you're going to talk about baptism, of our baptismal vow, right, where we. What is it? We accept the freedom and power God gives you to resist evil, injustice, and oppression, whatever forms they present themselves. Right? They were fighting that system
Yes.
of oppression and
Yes.
injustice and evil, and they were in the bathhouse doing that.
Yes.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And yet Rumi, while she was doing it, she wasn't fully accepting the new birth that comes with that vow.
Yeah, she
until
refused
the
to
end.
own her scars.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And another symbolism that's in that public bathhouse
Okay.
is that it's not your private shower.
Oh, yeah. It's community again.
Community one.
Yeah.
And everyone comes to the one that's in your town,
Yeah,
in your
yeah.
little corner of your street.
Right.
And it's communal refreshment,
Yeah.
communal restoration, communal healing, communal rest,
Yeah, yeah.
from which we all come back to your everydayness
Yeah.
with that refreshed
Yeah.
self.
So it's an interesting kind of juxtaposition to think of Rumi and her fans and the Huntrix singers. They work together to fight for the world, for to eliminate evil. And Kume and the Saja boys and all the demons in that other world, they have no say. It's all about Kume, right?
And yes, and Gwi-Ma is trying to suck everyone into
Yes,
His-
into his will, his desire, his need, all of that kind of stuff. So two very different ideas of what you do with community.
And that shows us about a little bit about our real life, the
Yeah,
polarized world where
Yeah.
we have two different values
for sure,
pulling us apart.
for sure.
But the song started with 3 girls, and a lot others have started joining them.
Yeah,
And when
yeah.
it became a chorus
Right.
of the world,
Right, right.
that's
And it actually started with just Rumi at the very end
Yes,
scene.
yes.
I mean, by the time that final conflict is happening, and Rumi's been exposed, and everybody's turned against her, and then the demons just have a field day. They're hearing the voice of
Yes.
Kume, who is saying, "You're not enough. You're not enough," and they're all feeling the doubt and that awful feeling of
Yes.
all that they want to hide, and But Rumi walks out into this auditorium and begins singing.
Yes.
And then the other two join, and then it begins to spread. So it even started with just one person.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And now that I hear your description of that chorus,
Yeah.
it reminded me of the first scene where these trio was going on a private jet, flying over and eating all those snacks that they
That's
were not
right.
supposed to eat before the concert.
That's right. And they were being served those snacks
Yes.
by demons.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you remember the song?
I'm going up, up, up. Is that what they were singing?
Yes.
Oh.
So they were going up on a plane.
Okay.
It's like
There you
they're
go.
on a different
Yeah.
plane,
Yeah.
different world, high up,
Yeah.
away from the mess.
Okay. Yeah.
But
yeah.
the last closing song was Take Down.
coming
back
There
down.
you go.
To sing those songs together
Wow.
in the world.
Okay.
So there was a
Yeah,
little.
yeah.
I can bring a little connection between our desire to be religiously higher,
There you go.
but the
Yeah.
redemption comes only when we bring the stories down, the song down,
Yeah.
and take everyone down
And take everyone down to where the fight is.
Yes.
To work together
Yes.
and to get messy and to be honest. Who knew this animated children's film had so much symbolism and theology in
Yes.
it? Hannah, thank you so much for bringing this
You're
conversation to us. It was a lot of fun, and I love watching movies, and it's lovely to be able to see some of the things that I may have missed by just humming along to the song that I think just background noise.
That's the beauty of watching movies together.
That's
and talking
right.
about it.
That's right. That's right. Thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll have a couple of more in this series, so watch for news in our Patreon channel or our YouTube channel or anywhere you get your podcast. We will see you next time at the movies.
Yes.
At the movies,
Field trips,
theoretically.
public movie house.
There you go. This is a production of First United Methodist Church of San Diego. To learn more about our events and ministries and to access additional learning resources, visit fumcsd.org.